Hello and welcome. Today we turn to question number 4, December 2022. The paper is Boardroom Dynamics. Question 4A reads, self-regulation is an important component in corporate governance. Assess 5 components of self-regulation. 5 components of self-regulation. Now, the 5 components of self-regulation are: 1, the code of conduct. The second component is internal policies and procedures. The third component, compliance and monitoring. The fourth component is accountability mechanisms. And lastly, we have stakeholder engagement. Those are 5 components of regulation in corporate governance. Number 1, code of conduct. Number 2, internal policies and procedures. Number 3, compliance and monitoring. Number 4, accountability mechanisms. And lastly, stakeholder engagement. 4 components. Part A, components of self-regulation. Components of self-regulation in corporate governance. Components of self-regulation in corporate governance. Number 1, code of conduct. 1, code of conduct. Code of conduct. A well-defined code of conduct sets out the ethical standards and behaviors expected from directors, from executives, and the employees within the organization. That's an important component of self-regulation. Code of conduct. There has to be a code of conduct. A well-defined code of conduct. 2, internal policies and procedures. Internal policies and procedures. Internal policies and internal procedures. Self-regulation involves implementing and adhering to internal policies and procedures that guide decision-making, that guide risk management, financial reporting, and other key governance aspects or areas. Internal policies and procedures. Compliance and monitoring. Number 3. Compliance and monitoring. Compliance and monitoring. Self-regulation includes ongoing monitoring of the organization's compliance with laws, regulations, compliance with internal policies, and so on. And it may involve internal audits and assessments to identify areas of improvement. So compliance and monitoring is a key component of self-regulation in corporate governance. 4, accountability mechanisms. Accountability mechanisms. Self-regulation necessitates having clear accountability mechanisms in place, ensuring that individuals and departments are responsible for their actions and decisions. Accountability mechanisms. Then lastly, stakeholder engagement. Stakeholder engagement. Effective self-regulation involves engaging with stakeholders, including investors, including customers, including employees, and even the community at large. Why? In order to understand their expectations, in order to understand their concerns, and to incorporate their feedback into governance practices. So these are key components of self-regulation in corporate governance. Number 1, code of conduct. Number 2, internal policies and procedures. Number 3, compliance and monitoring. Number 4, accountability mechanisms. And lastly, stakeholder engagement. 5 marks. 5 marks. Part B, explain 5 benefits of low power distance cultural dimension to an organization's board. I repeat. Explain 5 benefits of low power distance cultural dimension to an organization's board. 5 benefits. B, benefits of low power distance. Benefits of low power distance cultural dimension. Benefits of low power distance cultural dimension to an organization's board. Now, the first benefit is open communication. Open communication. Number 1, open communication. Open communication. In a low power distance culture, there is a tendency for open and transparent communication between board members, and that encourages the free exchange of ideas and also constructive criticism. The second benefit is inclusive decision making. Inclusive decision making. Low power distance culture value participation and involvement from all members and candidates in an organization's board. This leads to more inclusive decision making where diverse perspectives are considered. The third point or benefit is reduced hierarchy. Reduced hierarchy. Low power distance culture has a reduced emphasis on hierarchical structures. And in a board setting, this can create a more egalitarian environment where all directors feel comfortable contributing to discussions. 4, access to diverse talent. Access to diverse talent is another benefit of low power distance cultural dimension. Access to diverse talent. Low power distance culture encourages a more inclusive approach to talent recruitment, and boards in such cultures are more likely to seek directors from diverse backgrounds and experiences, thereby enhancing board effectiveness. 5, flexibility and adaptability. Flexibility and adaptability. Low power distance cultures often embrace flexibility and adaptability. And boards in these cultures are more receptive to change, they are more receptive to innovation, and they are receptive to new ideas, allowing the organization to stay competitive. So these are 5 benefits of low power distance cultural dimension. 1, open communication. 2, inclusive decision making. 3, reduced hierarchy. 4, access to diverse talent. 5, flexibility and adaptability. 5 benefits, 5 marks. 5 benefits, 5 marks. Question 4C, evaluate 5 flaws that hinder effectiveness of decision making at board meetings. Flaws that hinder effective decision making. Flaws that hinder effective decision making. What are the flaws that hinder effective decision making? One is one of the biases we mentioned earlier. One, group think. Groupthink is one flaw. Groupthink occurs when board members prioritize consensus over critical thinking, leading to conformity and stifling dissenting opinions. And that can result in flawed decisions and missed opportunities. Groupthink. 2, lack of diverse perspectives. Lack of diverse perspectives. If board members have similar backgrounds or experiences, it can lead to a lack of diverse perspectives, and that is a narrow outlook. Such a narrow outlook may limit the consideration of alternative approaches. So lack of diverse perspectives is a flaw that hinder effective decision making. 3, inadequate information. Inadequate information is another flaw that may hinder effective decision making. Boards may make suboptimal decisions if they lack access to accurate and comprehensive information. And incomplete or biased data can lead to flawed judgment. That's why earlier on we say that the corporate secretary should ensure that the board has data, has information, has reports in advance of meeting, so that the board can prepare adequately, such that when the board meets, they can now make informed decisions. So if the board members have inadequate or inaccurate information, then that is a flaw that can hinder effective decision making. 4, time constraints. Time constraints. Limited time for board meetings can hinder in-depth discussions and analysis of complex issues. You may have rushed decision making, which may result in overlooking details, or the board may end up having inadequate deliberations because of time constraints. Then lastly, lack of accountability. Lack of what? Lack of accountability. Boards may face challenges in holding individual members accountable for their contributions or actions. And that can lead to complacency and lack of responsibility among the board members. So these are 5 flaws that hinder effective decision making. Number 1, groupthink. Number 2, lack of diverse perspectives. Number 3, inadequate information. Number 4, time constraints. Then lastly, lack of accountability. 5 marks. 5 marks. So that effectively brings the end to our today's lesson, where we've answered question 5, December 2022. This is question 4, December 2022, Boardroom Dynamics for Certified Secretaries. Thank you. I'll meet you in our next session, where we'll wind up the division of this sitting by answering question number 5. Bye.